Hello again, grade 7s. In today's lesson, we are going to start a new unit of study in math that dealing with circles. And more specifically in the lesson today, we're going to define what the diameter and radius of a circle is, and then spend a great deal of time learning how to use a compass to construct a circle. Learning outcome is to construct circles with a given radius or diameter. So let's start off by defining radius and diameter. The radius of a circle, which we'll abbreviate with a lowercase r, is the distance from the center of the circle to the outer edge of the circle, to any point on the outer edge. If we draw this on a circle, typically when I do draw a circle, I like to indicate the center of the circle with maybe a little dot, and we could label it for now with the letter capital C, which means the center of the circle. And the radius of the circle would just be the distance from the center to any outer edge. I showed one horizontal line here. It could be any line from the center to the outer edge. That's a defining characteristic of a circle. Whenever you draw a line from the center of the circle to the outer edge and measure the distance, it's always going to be constant. And that constant distance is what we call the radius. Diameter, which we'll abbreviate with a lowercase d, represents the distance across the entire circle. However, the diameter must pass through the center of the circle. Okay, let's erase this here. And let's go to another circle. So the diameter goes from one side of the circle to the other, but it must pass through the center of the circle. If you try to draw a line like this, if you went from one line from here all the way across there, yeah, I guess that line does go across the circle in a way, but it does not pass through the center. This is actually, I believe, what we call a chord. But we're not interested in that in grade 7 math. We're just interested in describing a circle based on the radius and the diameter. Now look at these two different quantities, the radius and diameter of a circle. How do they relate? For example, if I wanted to calculate the diameter of a circle and I knew what the radius is, what's the connection between the two of them? Well, there's a couple of formulas we can write down for this. The diameter of a circle is just 2 times the radius. You can see that here. If you take the radius, which is the distance from the center of the circle to the outside, and if you multiplied that by 2, then it would span the entire distance across the circle just through the center, and that would then be the diameter. So my diameter is just 2 times the radius. Well, what if I went the other way around? What if I knew what the diameter of a circle was and I wanted to determine the radius? Well, the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. When you're dividing something by 2, you're cutting it in half. That's essentially what I'm doing when I'm calculating the radius. If you take the diameter and you cut it into 2 equal parts, then you have the radius. So a couple of formulas we can use to calculate diameter from radius and radius from diameter. What we're really interested in today is how to use a compass to draw a circle. And I'll show you how to do this using some a smart app, which actually has like an animation of a ruler and a compass. But let's go through the steps of how to draw a circle using a compass first. The first thing you want to do is, if you're told to draw a circle and you're given the diameter of the circle, you always want to calculate the radius first. Sometimes you might be given the radius of the circle immediately, in which case you can just skip step 1. However, if you're given the diameter, you should always calculate the radius before you do anything. Step 2, what you want to do is use a ruler to draw a line segment with the same length as the radius. And typically what I'll do is I'll pick a point that I want to be the center of the circle and just draw a line segment from the center of the circle that's just the exact same length as the radius. This will make a lot more sense when you see me go through the examples in a moment. Step 3, you have two edges on your compass. You have a pointy edge and you have a pencil edge. And what you want to do is you want to spread the compass apart so that the pointy edge is specifically on the center of the circle. And you want the pencil edge to be on the outer radius. Once you do this, so you've got the compass adjusted to the correct length, then you take the knob at the very top of the compass and you just rotate it around 360 degrees, which makes you go around the circle one time. Okay, without like an actual illustration as to what's going on, these steps are kind of confusing, so let's get into that right now. We do have a couple of example problems, but I'm going to now switch to a smart notebook where I can show how this works I can show this works visually. Okay, so I'll just end this for a moment. And let's go to the smart notebook. All right, so example 1. I want to construct a circle that has a diameter of 10 centimeters. Before you do anything here, you're given the diameter. In order to draw a circle, I really need to calculate the radius first. I'm going to do a little calculation to do that. So how do you calculate the radius from the diameter? Well, my equation for radius, so you have r, would be equal to the diameter of the circle divided by 2. Plugging the numbers in, the diameter is 10 centimeters. Divide this by 2. And I'm going to get a radius of my circle that is equal to 5 centimeters. This is the first step you should do if you're given the diameter. If you're given the radius of the circle, you don't need to do this because you already know what the radius is. Okay, now I want to pick a point on my piece of paper that I'm going to draw the center of the circle. I would always recommend centering this. So I put the center of the circle somewhere in the center of your page. Otherwise, you're going to end up having your circle go off the page. So I'm going to put my center here. So I'll put, that's my point, and I'll call it point C. What I want to do now is I want to take a ruler and I'm going to take the ruler and I'm going to draw the radius going from left to right. So I'm going to take the 0 marking on the ruler and line it up with the center of the circle. And then what I do is from the center of the circle, I want to draw the radius length of 5 centimeters. Okay, so now I'll go back to my pen. So starting here, I'm then going to draw the radius up until the 5 centimeter mark. By the way, these little tiny ticks in between are millimeter markings. The bigger lines are the centimeter markings. I'm going to label the radius. So I'm going to say R is equal to 5 centimeters. And I'm going to take the ruler and just put it to the side for, attempt to put it to the side for a moment. Let's put it up here. Now I'm going to pull up my compass. Okay, so you will need a compass to correctly draw a circle. Now, just to point this out, so again, a compass has 2 parts to it. It has this pointy edge, and it has a pencil edge to it. And what I want to do is I want to take the pointy edge and put that on the center of the circle. Pointy edge on the center of the circle. Then I want to spread the compass apart so that the pencil edge is on the outer radius of where the circle is going to be. So let's move this apart a little bit until it gets to the outside. Now, just a warning in advance. Well, actually, let's draw the circle first, and then I'll tell you like something you might need to do to your compass so you can actually draw this correctly. Okay, so I have the pointy edge in the center, and I have the pencil edge on the outer radius of the circle. And now you grab the knob at the very top of the compass, and then you kind of just twist it. Twist it until you can go around the circle one complete time. So let's go all the way around the circle. Now, obviously, I'm going to get a perfect circle because I used a computer program to do it. When you do it, you should, if you have the compass set well, you should be able to get a pretty good circle. However, if you find that as you try to like rotate the compass, the radius of the circle starts to get bigger, that's because the arms are starting to spread apart. The reason the arms are spreading apart is you might need to make an adjustment on the actual protractor, usually at about somewhere about this location. There's a little tiny screw, and you might need to take a screwdriver and just tighten it. Because if you tighten it, then when you actually apply force and move this thing around the circle, the arm shouldn't spread apart, because that is what you do not want to happen. So again, I'd recommend, even before you use your compass, to take a screwdriver and just to fasten it a bit more. Okay, so that's my circle for example 1. It's a circle with a diameter of 10 centimeters. However, we always calculate the radius first. And again, a nicely labeled circle should have the center labeled, and it should also have the radius labeled with the number if you know what it is. Okay, now let's go to the second example. So I'm going to drag the compass and the ruler down. Let's go down here. Okay, so example 2 tells me, it says the edges of line segment AB represent the radius of a circle. If point A has coordinates of 1, 1, and B has coordinates of -3, 2, construct the circle if A is the center of the circle. Okay, so let's plot these points first. Let's start off with point A, which has coordinates of 1, 1. So what that means is, to plot the point, I go 1 unit to the right and then 1 unit up from the origin. So 1 to the right, 1 up. Point A is going to be located right here. So we'll call that point A. Point B is at -3, 2. So starting at the origin, the negative tells you to go towards the left by 2. You go left by 3. And then since the y coordinate is positive, you go up by 2. So point B would be located right here. I'm going to take my ruler now, and I'm going to just draw a line between A and B. Draw a line that connects them. Oh, I went way too far. Whoops. Try that again, except this time let's try not to go so far. Stop when you get to A. Come on. Don't go past it. Yes. Okay, let's get rid of the ruler now. We don't need it anymore. Now it tells me draw a circle as if the point A is the radius of the circle. So I want to take my protractor, my compass, and I want to put the compass on point A. Although I'm going to have to flip my compass around, because I need to get that pencil edge over to point B. Now right now it's not going to line up correctly, so I'm going to have to rotate my compass a little bit to do this. So let's get this guy a little bit up and moving in a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so again, the pointy edge always goes at the center of the circle. The pencil edge goes on the outer radius. And yeah, we could also label this as R, although we don't know what the radius is here. It's just going to be a line that goes from A to B. And we'll take this guy, and then we'll grab the knob of the protractor and go all the way around the circle, 360 degrees. And then I get this nice, perfect circle on the Cartesian plane. So that's how you construct a circle using a compass. Let's go back now to the lesson and identify the assignment to complete. in your MathLink 7 textbook on page 71, do numbers 5 through 9. I believe number 5, you have to draw 3 circles. 6 and 7 are some calculations involving going from radius to diameter and diameter to radius. You actually don't need to draw any circles for questions 6 or 7. Question 8, you got to draw circles, and question 9 deals with the Cartesian plane, where you also need to do that. So you can do that. And then in the next lesson, we'll talk about calculating the circumference of the circle. And I'll talk to you then.